Good morning, and welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known. I am your host, Stacy Brown.
Peace and love, everybody. Happy to be back. I'm your co host, Neil Anderson, and we have tons of headlines to get through today. And I'm ready, Stacy.
All right, well, the shutdown, welcome back, first of all, but the shutdown has finally ended, as we know, and it at least appears to me that folks will be getting their SNAP back at least through September, unless, of course, the madman uh, does what he normally does. But before we get into all of that, let's see what the producer has for us this morning.
If you all came to leave inspired, you shouldn't invite me on the panel. I'm being very serious. These are the darkest times of my lifetime. And I'm always honored to be in the presence of the people who fought for us to have the rights that we have. And then I feel ashamed because how dare we lose within the span of this generation what it took our ancestors decades to fight for. One thing that's very clear to me is that the opposition knows this country far better than our allies do. They understand very fundamental truths about America. That's why when they executed their plan, they were ready, right? That's why they go after the history. That's why, like, we were laughing at how silly it was that they were erasing pronouns or, oh, look, they want to erase Harriet Tubman. No, they're very smart about understanding who controls the history, controls the narrative controls the politics and the policies. And we are in a country where we have been told ever since Trump won the first time that what was driving the electorate was economic anxiety. And Black folks have been writing against that and saying it is always demographic anxiety. It always has been. And now when they're explicit about it, now people understand what we were saying. So I don't honestly know what the answer is. People say get out and vote. Well, folks did vote.
And right? It made a difference. It made a difference. He watched and he's hurting. He wanted the government.
Did it though?
But wait a minute. He wanted the government to be reopened because it looked so bad on him. And his poll numbers at 37% approval.
And yet, what fundamentally changed? So this is the problem. You keep asking people to engage in a political system, and their lives don't change. And in fact, if you all came to leave inspired.
Well, that was Nicole Hannah-Jones and April Ryan and Don Lemon sitting on the sidelines on that one right there. I'm pretty sure he had something to say too. But Niel, your takeaway on that?
Yeah, Nicole Hannah-Jones, author of the 1619 Project. And I think that she is definitely the voice that needs to be heard more than probably anybody else in that room, because she can speak from a historical context. And I also seen another clip that April Ryan posted, and I wanted to know, and I posted on her page, I wanted to know what was going through their mind when Don Lemon did speak, because he was kind of chastising Black folks for spending habits, and so the facial expressions, I encourage everybody to go to April Ryan's page and watch it. I know she dropped a lot of clips, but that one particular clip where Don Lemon was talking about, I know you want your Louis Vuitton bag and your this and that.
What?
The facial expression on Nicole Hannah-Jones' face, as well as April Ryan, they didn't have to say a word. Like, are you serious? Are you really telling us how we should be acting? So, I mean,
how we should spend our money.
Yeah, how we should spend our money, how we should act, and what you have to hear what he was saying. It was kind of like chastising Black folks. And so they both gave him a side eye. So I'm interested in hearing the whole conversation because it looked really juicy, and you had three different perspectives that are important to Black America. But like I say, Nicole Hannah-Jones, hands down, she's the one that we should all be listening to.
Yeah, well, interesting stuff, folks. Interesting stuff. But what's really interesting, we know about the shutdown. We know about all of this other stuff that with SNAP, healthcare is that the Republicans gave themselves in this bill. 8 Republicans wrote in $1 million for themselves personally because of being investigated for January 6th. Mike Johnson is playing in everybody's faces this morning, saying, "No, next week we're gonna take a vote to rescind that." Why'd you put it in the first place? There's so much other stuff in that bill, but the real thing with everything going on, there was a crisis meeting at the White House last night. Lauren Boebert attended, Kash Patel attended, the president, and he's panicking. The Epstein emails came out, started not trickling out, pouring out. Neil, this is a guy that they elected president, and Epstein is saying some serious stuff in those emails, and so are other people when it comes to President Donald Trump.
One of the headlines that are coming out is that he held this meeting with these Republican congressional members in the Situation Room. Now, the Situation Room is a place where you go when there is war and there are major issues worldwide happening. That's what the Situation Room is for. He put these congressional members in the Situation Room. Yeah. That shows you what's important in his mind. And so it is pure chaos. It is pure mayhem in that White House. That White House looks ridiculous. The more the renovations, I won't even call them renovations, but the more stuff that he has done in that house with marble floors and gold trimming. I mean, it is just pure. There's nothing that is happening in that place that is going to help the American people and get our country back on the right track. That's happening there. Only thing that's on his mind is Epstein.
I'm just surprised that they didn't find a way before now to destroy those emails and stuff. I'm surprised. Yeah, and those emails are so damaging. April mentioned in that clip that his approval ratings at 37% is actually 33%. It
drops every day. Let's say that.
Yeah, it has cratered big time. But these Epstein files are just or emails. These are not the files that when they swore in the Democratic Congresswoman out of Arizona, they was holding their breath, and Mike Johnson was holding out and not swearing her in because of the files. And now that she immediately, the first thing she did was become the 218th signature, the signature that they needed to release those files. In the file, again, I think you have to understand that what we saw pour out yesterday was these emails. It wasn't the files. And so if it tells you these emails were so damaging, and you see why he's afraid of the files coming out.
Yeah, and he should be. And I hope they run like a water faucet, just turned on to the highest level. Just run on out. I want to go back. People were talking about the conversation with Nicole Hannah-Jones, April Ryan, and Don Lemon. And Aquarius says the conversation with Don was about getting out of your comfort zone. And that's what I really like, their facial expressions, because it's like the only reason why Don got out of his because he was forced to. You know, the question is, would he be sitting on that panel if he was still on CNN? I doubt very seriously. I mean, and that was the context of the facial expressions that I was getting. Like, really, bro, really, you coming down here to talk to us? But another one, Nancy said, I listened to them and it was worth listening to. Yeah, I thought it was a very juicy conversation from the clips that April posted. So I encourage everybody to go check that out.
Yeah. But again, Michael Wolff and tapes. And that's the other thing. I want to go back to the Epstein files.
Go ahead. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about
No,
it.
Michael Wolff, who is this the author who recorded so much stuff. It revealed in tapes too, not just emails. That's the thing that's really interesting. That how Epstein described himself as Trump's quote unquote closest friend, and that he liked to screw his friends' wives. In one instance, Epstein says that Trump spent hours at his house with a woman later identified as a victim of sex trafficking, according to the emails. And Trump also, in one instance, with one underage girl, as if 16 was the age of consent, he goes, "Well, I thought she was 16." According again to the tapes of Michael Wolff and these emails, this is a person that they knew about and they put him back in office. It's unfathomable that to have someone like this in office as the president of the United States. Now, he hasn't been charged or convicted of a crime, but we do know this about Donald Trump. We do know that in a civil court, he lost a $90+ million judgment twice for sexual assault. And we do know this about Donald Trump, that with Billy Bush before his first presidential term in 2016, he boasted about being able to grab females by their private parts. We do know that. And we now know that he talked about 16-year-olds. He didn't know she was 16. He thought she was 16. He thought she was younger. I mean, he was messing with somebody younger than 16. We know that he's all over these emails. Epstein refers to him. Epstein bragged about with Alan Dershowitz and others how much he has on Donald Trump and how he funneled girls through Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the videos, we've seen the pictures. We don't need the files to know that Donald Trump and Epstein were friends, and that he was, the word on the street is he was funneling and helping Epstein funnel those girls through Mar-a-Lago, allegedly. But I mean, the proof is there. And I thought it was very interesting that the Trump administration used a dead woman to justify, well, she said, well, she's dead. We don't know what she said. Okay. There are tons of women that are alive that were there, that were at the Capitol a few months ago. Quote them, get them to say something. Stop quoting a dead woman. And so all of these things, I think that Melania, when the files drop, I think that she's in them as well. And so it's gonna come out. It's coming out. People want it to come out. Now, it's not going to come out, I don't think, from the Department of Justice for sure. But it's going to be people who understand the assignment, and because there are Republicans who are invested in this as well. Donald Trump, they said this morning, it's being reported already that there is chaos and mayhem in the White House. It's going bonkers. And what we have to be concerned about, Stacey, is that he is going to do something to deflect, which will be on us, which will impact us. He's going to deflect.
Well, here's the thing. There's a report that he sold some property in the United States to China next to a military base and next to nuclear stuff. And we also know that he did something with I think it was Saudi Arabia or whatever. We also know that he hosted in the White House Syria's president, who still has a $10 million bounty on his head for allegedly killing U.S. soldiers and citizens. But he invited him into. He was a member of Al Qaeda, and he invited him to the White House, and it was all this pomp and circumstances. He's doing some real crazy stuff that we would consider crazy. We used to consider crazy. But also notice that a report came out yesterday that 50 of the people he pardoned, 50 for the January 6th, all had either had records or now have records of something to do with child sexual assault, child sexual pornography, downloading it, stuff like that. We know that the Republican Party itself and some Democrats, I'm not going to say, oh, but we know that Marjorie Taylor Greene, after the whole Matt Gaetz thing, she said that she knew of her Republican, this is Marjorie Taylor Greene, back in December of last year, her Republican colleagues being complicit in child sexual activities. So it seems to be pedophiles protecting pedophiles. Thomas Barak was somebody who he appointed as ambassador to Turkey. He's all over the Epstein files and in really, really shockingly disgusting ways.
Well, I mean, if you think of white men from a historical context, especially American men, they've always taken advantage of women, younger women. I mean, think about slaves and how they took advantage of young girls to for their pleasure, but also to breed, right? And so this is a part of who they are. We have this conversation a lot about being our ancestors' wildest dreams. Well, so are they. And they have that in their blood, and they do like younger women. I mean, from a historical context, it's there. So we shouldn't be surprised by that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we'll hear a lot more. Switching gears, folks, we touched on this yesterday, and now we're going to get even deeper into it. When Black home ownership sits around 46% nationally, and the average Black homeowner holds less than half the equity of a white homeowner, stretching mortgages to 50 years is not a solution, folks. It's a stall. It lowers the monthly bill, but steals the long game. For Black families already fighting a 30-point home ownership gap and a $160,000 equity gap, slower equity is the last thing we need. Real estate mogul and wealth educator Constance Carter joins Let It Be Known. Good morning, Constance.
Hey, good morning. How are you both?
Good morning. Good. Glad to have you.
Good to be back.
Constance, I already know. Well, I kind of understand where you're gonna go with this, but I want you to have at it. 50-year mortgage, Constance.
Okay, so a 50-year mortgage is kind of crazy. Like, because you think about it, the average age of a homeowner of a first-time home buyer as of 2025 is 40 years old. So we can't even, it's not like it was before. People can't even afford to buy homes until they are 40 years old. So that's the first problem. So by the time you pay this joint off, you're going to be 90 years old. Who is carrying a mortgage at 90 years old? And then when you think about the amount that you get in Social Security, so if you don't have a big retirement, the average cost of Social Security, what that's going to be when you're 65, 70 years old, let alone 90, and you're still carrying a mortgage, and the average home price being $400,000, your average mortgage payment is $3,000. You're not even making that on Social Security. So that's the first thing. Okay. Then you think about a 30-year mortgage. You know, actually, I looked up what that looked like. So a 30-year mortgage at 7% right now for $500,000, your payment is $3,300. Okay. A 50-year mortgage, $500,000, your payment is $3,000. So you're adding 20 years, but you're only saving $300.
Oh gosh.
Okay. Then you think about, because you know how interest on mortgages is compounded. It's compound interest. You're paying most of the interest up front. You're on a 50-year mortgage, you're paying $1.3 million in interest over the life of the loan, as opposed to on a 30-year, you're paying $697,000 in interest. So you're paying double the amount of interest on that 50-year loan that you're paying on the 30-year loan.
I mean, so let's just be real about it. Based upon the economy that we live in right now, is home ownership worth it, especially if he's able to succeed with pushing this to a 50-year mortgage?
It's definitely worth it, but we have choices. So choose not to get a 50-year loan, because overall you might be saving a couple $100 on your mortgage, but you're not saving overall when you look at the overall interest, when you look at what's really happening. So what was supposed to happen is Trump was supposed to get these interest rates reduced. He couldn't do that. So let's go ahead and do something that's going to look like on the surface that we're saving the money, which we're really not saving money on this. So it looks on the surface that it's better for us. We've always had 30 and 40-year mortgages. And actually, if you look at the 40-year loans, the interest rates are always higher. I gave you an apples to apples comparison on a 30 and 50 years. But the longer the term, typically your interest rate is even higher. So, I mean, overall, it's just bad overall. There's nothing good about this, especially when you look at, for us, the wealth gap, of home ownership. White families, 70% of them are homeowners. For us, it's 43%, and it's widening. But that's certainly not the way to get more people into homes.
Yeah, and Constance, let's talk a little bit about equity because Black families who buy homes still end up with much less.
You're muted, Stacy.
Sorry. Yeah, here we go. But for instance, one stat that says the median home equity for Black homeowners is about 113,000, white homeowners at 270. That is a gap of more than $160,000. So when equity is this uneven, it affects everything. It affects how people borrow. It affects how families build wealth. It affects what gets passed down. Could you talk about that a little bit, Constance?
Let's go beyond that and talk about the reason why there's this inequality or inequity in equity. Just this month, so I own a mortgage company. I'm refinancing a client, a good girlfriend of mine in California, and she's a doctor. So we've been working on this loan. We're actually about to close it. Finally, we're about to close it. But here's what happened. So home's worth about $1.3 million. And she gets an appraisal. She gets an appraisal about 2 months ago. She's there. She meets with the appraisal. The appraisal appraises the home at $900,000. Okay. So we like, no, that ain't it. So we get another appraisal. This time she's a doctor. She has one of her nurses that work for her at the house. The nurse is there. This time they appraise a home for $1.1 million. It's a white nurse, a white lady who works for her, $1.1 million. This just happened to me. So we knew that it was still worth $1.3 million. So we just did another appraisal about 2 weeks ago. She had that white nurse and another guy who worked for her, a white man. He's like a handyman or something. Guess what the home appraised for? $1.3 million. So we have these types of barriers inside home ownership and inequality. Yeah. And how they're appraising our properties. It's a shame that when you have a property, you got to take down all your Black artifacts. You can't have your personal things up on the walls, because if they know that you're Black, they're not going to give you the value. And that's a whole separate issue, but that's also a factor in our wealth and minimizing the wealth that we have in our property. So it's so many things, so many ways that they attack us. It's crazy.
I mean, is there any way to like rectify these things from a consumer standpoint, and just having, like, when we talk about, I always talk about how, like, on the news, there used to be consumer affairs, and remember they would go and bust you open and be like, gotcha. Yeah. I mean, and it would help motivate the people. How can we turn this thing around from a people's standpoint?
I think a couple of things, because I posted about this a couple of weeks ago, the day that it happened, the day that we got that $1.3 million appraisal, and a lot of people came forward and said, this happened to me, this happened to me. A lot of people don't fight it; they just accept whatever it is. And when you use words like appraisal discrimination, when you put race, when you interject race in there, then people start to listen. However, with all of the tightening with the current administration, we don't have the support that we used to have. So the thing is, fight back, right? Bring awareness. And then we just need more Black people in those positions. We need more Black appraisers. We need more people that are in the positions that are making these decisions that aren't, that are able to give us the full value. So it's one, fight back. It's one, push back. If your mortgage broker just says, hey, let's just deal with it. No, you push back and say, no, let's get another one, dispute that appraisal. Let's, here are the comps. Here's what it really should be worth. So that's what really our recourse is at this point. File a complaint with HUD. We still do have that, but how effective is it in this administration? So, a lot of our rights are being stripped by the day. We see with this administration.
And Constance, can you talk about deeds, because I know that there's some funky stuff that some folks have been doing in Baltimore with deeds. At least we know in Baltimore, but probably elsewhere. But give us a little dissertation on that, if you will.
So These things keep, for some reason, stuff keeps happening to me, y'all. I have no idea. So I'm actually in Bowie. So I moved to Bowie 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. I moved here from California. And so I've been looking for a house in a certain neighborhood, and I finally find a house. It goes on the market. I finally find a house. I write an offer. I get the offer accepted. A bunch of people wanted it. They let me have it. So I'm excited. And so they said it's subject to us going to court and getting some stuff taken care of. Okay, cool. Well, what I didn't know was there was an HOA foreclosure on the property. Now, this property was worth about $1 million. The owner owed maybe about $500,000, and he had fell behind. He was old. He was an elderly gentleman. He got sick. He fell behind on his HOA, was in a hospital months on end. And then he fell behind, found out his home was sold in the HOA foreclosure. So when he found out, he said, let me pay. You know, his kids were like, let us pay. Let's get it up. And so this investor named Sam Asghari, he was like, nope, it's my house. Y'all get out. It's my house now. I bought it for $8,800. He buys this $1 million home for $8,800. So they go to court. They appeal it. Finally, they win. I buy it. Okay. Sam Asghari, and he goes to Supreme Court in January to appeal it. It's my house. That's what he's saying. But it's really my house. But he's saying, no, this is my house. So he goes to the Supreme Court to appeal it, and they deny it. They strike it down. In March, he goes and he files that deed that the sheriff had given him when it foreclosed. He filed that deed on my house. And the only reason why I knew about it was because I got a notification from Zillow saying a new house sold in your neighborhood. And then I go look it up. My house sold for $8,800. So now this man's name is on my house. I got the liability. He got the asset because I still got a mortgage on it. I still got an $800,000 mortgage on it, and the house is in his name. So what I think he was planning to do, we'll say allegedly, was he was planning on evicting me and stealing my house. And this just, so I went to court. So I hired an attorney. I go to court last Friday. They filed a motion to dismiss because he didn't show up. First, he sent a message. They emailed him. They were like, hey, you filed this deed. You know, what happened? He was like, this is my house. You guys violated my civil rights. I want my house. So my attorney is like, yo, this guy's really crazy, Constance. So you should probably watch out. And so I said, well, you know what? If he come over here, he might come walking, but he gonna leave limping or in a body bag because I don't play them games. So if he's come to my house, try to do something, it's gonna be some problems. But so anyway, we ended up winning last Friday in our court hearing, and the house is rightfully restored back to me. But what I've learned, because I posted about this, is so many people that this has happened to. There was an elderly couple that this happened to. Same exact attorney was involved, the HOA attorney, different HOA, different community, same investor. House was stolen. They fought for a year to get it back. They got it back. They ended up dying. Their son ended up dying. They said this was so stressful. Stressful. Another gentleman, he went to out of the country for a year, came back. He fell behind on his HOA. House almost paid off. He's evicted. Somebody else DM'd me. Somebody DM'd me today about a house in Bowie that this has happened to. So this has just been a rampant. This is the same guy who was in a legal embattlement with Kevin Spacey last year in Baltimore. So that's the Baltimore connection. Kevin Spacey had a home in Baltimore that was foreclosed, and they had a lot of stuff going on. So what I'm doing right now is I'm proposing some legislation to hold these HOAs accountable and to stop these illegal foreclosures because too many people have been victimized. It's crazy stories I'm hearing.
Right. Before we have to wrap up, thank you for that, because it also talks about the burden that you have to even fight back. Yeah. That alone, you still have to pay your mortgage and your HOA and all of that. Yeah. But before we let you go, in context to what we're talking about, the Trump administration is considering introducing a 15-year car loan. And so I just want to get your thoughts about that. And like, is this the same practice? He's just helping his friends just get more money and gouging the people. I mean, I know the answer to the question, but I do want to get your expertise.
That is exactly what's going on. So you think about all of these things that we have. Compound interest. Einstein said compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Those who know about it earn money from it. Those who don't, pay it. we as consumers on everything that we have, whether it's a credit card, car payment, mortgage, we are paying compound interest. And the longer that they can stretch out this interest, the more money we pay, the more money that these people make. So on the surface, oh yeah, 15-year car loan, my car is going to go down $100. But in reality, 15 years, that car ain't even working no more, right? So you're paying on a car that's probably not even working for 15 years, which is crazy. But it is a way for the powers that be to make more money.
Yeah, Constance. If you guys check her out, what's the is Instagram at I am Constance Carter?
Yeah, my Instagram is I am Constance Carter, TikTok, Facebook, all of those things. You can follow me at I am Constance Carter.
Because all these questions, folks, she answers a lot of the questions that you may have in the chat, including the stuff about title insurance and stuff like that. She talks about all of that. We stalk you, Constance. Don't worry about it. I'm just letting you know we stalk you, but we do want you, our producer especially wants you to, before you get out of here, leave us with a word, she says.
I just say, everyone, when it comes to your mortgages and things like that, just be really vigilant. Work with people that you know. All of these banks. See, the CFPB was put in place to be a watchdog for all of these banks. And you see one of the first things that Trump did when he got in office, he tried to eliminate the CFPB. This is an agency that is looking out for the consumer Protection Bureau, whatever, CFPB, right? Consumer Finance. This is for us. This is a watchdog that has fined Bank of America millions of dollars, Wells Fargo millions of dollars, all these big banks that were gouging us, that were offering predatory lending practices. And Trump wants to remove them. Why? Because it takes money out of those big banks' pockets. So I say work with people that you trust, question everything, work with Black people, bank with Black-owned bank businesses, and just double check. If somebody's not looking out for your best interest, shop it, go somewhere else, because you do have rights. And if people want to do business with you, you are in control of your own destiny. Don't take everybody's word for it. Be very, very, very vigilant about and protecting your assets.
Wow. I am Constance Carter is the Instagram. Check her out, folks. Follow her. You'll get educated on a lot of stuff, especially the stuff we've just talked about. We appreciate you, Constance.
I appreciate y'all having me.
Peace and love.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And one headline before we get out of here today, the last penny has been printed. Ending, I think we might as well end on some money. The last U.S. penny has been printed, ending a 232-year tradition after Trump called it a waste of money. Now, the U.S. Mint pressed the final coin in Philadelphia on yesterday. So bye to the penny. No more penny for your thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Ooh, so that's one of the huge policy priorities of the Trump administration, right? Get rid of the penny. Okay.
They say it costs more than a penny to make it. It costs like 3 or 4 pennies to make it. I mean, so maybe, a broke clock is right twice a day, as I always say.
Twice a day? Okay. In this case, in Trump's case, 1.5 times. Do we have to give him the full? We have to give him the full 2 times?
I mean, we can't let his altered reality affect ours. The truth is the truth.
And before we get out, Charles Terrell says the poorest white will let you pick his pockets if you tell him he's better than the richest Black. Of course, that was according as a quote from President Woodrow Wilson. He says, "Isn't that something?" Yeah, absolutely. Niele, we got Karine Jean-Pierre tomorrow.
Excited about that conversation.
So join us then, and of course, what should they do beforehand? Where should they go for their news?
Oh, you want to talk about? So I know there are tons of headlines headed over there.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, and I think that we should add that conversation because it was very popular in the chat today. The conversation between Nikole Hannah-Jones, April Ryan, and Don Lemon, so that everybody can catch it because it's definitely a conversation piece in the chat today. So look for that. Hopefully on Black Press USA. And if you can't find that, there's tons of other news and information that inspires and empowers the Black perspective. So head over to blackpressusa.com.
And we will see you tomorrow. Enjoy it, folks. Take care.